Welcome to Factors to Consider when Determining Extended School Year ESY. In this training, we will review the guidelines and procedures for considering ESY. This training will cover the following essential questions. What are extended school year services? And what factors do IEP teams need to consider when determining if a student requires ESY? Let's delve into the first essential question. What are ESY services? VDOE defines ESY as the following: a free appropriate education, FAPE, for some students with disabilities, may require a program of special education and related services in excess of normal school year. Let's take a deeper look of how VDOE clarifies FAPE as it specifically relates to ESY. VDOE breaks down the justification of FAPE for ESY with the following four components. The first component states, in general, ESY refers to special education and/or related services provided beyond the normal school year of a school division for the purpose of providing FAPE to a student with a disability. Let's break this down further. The IEP team must determine whether the benefits the child gained during the school year will be significantly jeopardized if the student does not receive ESY. It is important to note that should an IEP team determine ESY, these services are at no cost to the parent. They vary in type, intensity, location, inclusion of related services, and length of time depending on the individual needs of the student. It is also important to note that these services are distinct from enrichment programs, summer school programs, and compensatory service, and are not simply an extension of time. The next component states the IEP team must address the provision of ESY services, if required, in order for the student to receive FAPE. Deepening our understanding of this means the IEP must have statement of dates for initiation of services and the anticipation duration of the services. Our IEP system in C-STARS has a mechanism already in place in which during the ESY discussion, an IEP team needs to determine and enter the dates and hours associated with the service proposed. Continuing on, we look at the third component, which is ESY is not a separate planning process since it is part of the IEP process. To clarify, an IEP must be held to consider if a student needs ESY services and must be conducted like any other IEP meeting with appropriate prior notice. The determination of ESY, if data is available, could occur at an annual meeting. Should the team need to reconvene to gather and review additional data, an addendum with a meeting for a later date may be scheduled. School teams need to be mindful, if scheduling an addendum with a meeting, that it is made early enough to ensure parents can meaningfully exercise their due process rights if they wish to challenge an ESY decision. Please note the determination of ESY services should be an IEP team discussion and should not be sent home via an addendum without a meeting. Finally, the fourth component involves factors to be considered when determining the need for ESY. These include regression recoupment, degree of progress, emerging skills breakthrough opportunities, interfering behaviors, the nature and severity of the disability, and special circumstances or other factors. During ESY 2022, 3,858 students received services. This graphic provides a breakdown of the percentage of students served in each service delivery option. In the next part of the training, we will review each of the factors to be considered when determining the need for ESY services more closely. As we deepen our understanding of each factor, keep in mind the IEP team needs to consider if the benefits a disabled child gains during the school year will be significantly jeopardized if the child does not attend ESY. Any of these factors alone or in combination may trigger the need for ESY. Before looking closely at each factor, there is common terminology associated with ESY. It's important that we understand this terminology before we can dive deeper into understanding the factors to consider for ESY. Take a moment to pause the training and think about how you might define these common terms associated with ESY. Let's now take a look at the common terms associated with ESY defined by VDOE. First, critical life skills. A critical life skill includes any skill determined by the IEP team to be critical to the student's overall educational progress, including social and behavioral skills. In determining critical life skills for the specific needs of the student, the school division may consider those skills that lead to independent living, including toileting, feeding, communicating, dressing, and other self-help skills. In some cases, the school division may consider and address academic and behavioral issues, depending on factors such as student's age, ability, and number of years the student has left in school. The areas of reading, math, and written language could be considered critical life skills. Next, regression. Regression is a substantial loss of any critical life skill. Some degree of loss in skills typically occurs with all students during normal school breaks and would not be considered substantial. Recoupment is the ability to recover a loss of skills in a reasonable time following a normal school break. Most students with disabilities recoup skills within a reasonable time following the school break. Reasonable recoupment rates vary among individuals based upon individual learning styles and rates. Accordingly, some students with disabilities may require more than 6 to 8 weeks to regain skills. The last term we will review is significantly jeopardize. Significantly jeopardize means that the student is at greater risk of skills gained during the regular school year being impacted or lost. VDOE identifies the following as factors to consider for ESY: regression recoupment, degree of progress, emerging skills breakthrough opportunities, interfering behaviors, nature and severity of disability, and special circumstances or other factors. Let's now take a closer look at each of the 6 factors to consider. The next several slides will provide a deeper understanding of each factor, as well as provide questions which may be considered. Remember, each student has individual needs, and so while this training provides guidance, there may be some unique situations. Please reach out and involve your school team. Be sure to pause the presentation after each factor to consider to allow time for you to read and process the information provided. Regression and recoupment. The IEP team determines whether without ESY services there is a likelihood of substantial regression or critical life skills caused by the school break that would result in the failure to recover those skills within a reasonable amount of time. For example, after a 2-week school break, it requires 6 to 8 weeks for the student to regain skills. It should be noted that some regression in skills typically occurs with all students, disabled or not, and is not a sufficient basis for ESY services. Data indicates that the student requires extensive review to demonstrate previously learned skills. Data collected before and after an extended break documents both the degree of regression on specific skills and the period required to recoup the loss. Examples of extended breaks can include summer break, winter break, spring break, and long weekends. Be sure to use all data points collected in all learning environments. ESY services may not be appropriate for students with disabilities who can recoup critical skills and do not require an extraordinary amount of time for reteaching. We just shared a lot of information regarding regression and recoupment. Think about the following questions to consider. Does the student need extensive review to demonstrate previously learned skills? What inconsistencies does the student demonstrate in mastered or partially acquired skills? Has the student reached a critical point of instruction or behavior management where a break in programming would have serious detrimental effects? Does the student demonstrate behaviors or deficits that would cause regression if breaks in programming occur? Is there a degenerative medical condition that might cause regression? Will a break in programming jeopardize the student's placement in the least restrictive environment, LRE? Degree of progress. The IEP team must review the expected degree of progress on any IEP goals and objectives targeting critical life skills and determine whether, without ESY services, the student's degree of progress on those IEP goals and objectives significantly jeopardize the student's receipt of educational benefit from their educational program during the regular school year. Use data sheets, formative assessments, and performance checklists that document slow rate of progress and review the student's attendance records to identify impact on rate of progress. It is important to consider the student's ability when determining degree of progress. When considering the factor degree of progress, think through the following questions. Is there a likelihood that without ESY services, the student's degree or rate of progress toward critical life skills goals would significantly jeopardize the student's receipt of benefit from their educational placement during the regular school year? How does the length of time that the student takes to learn a skill negatively impact the maintenance of learned skills? Would the interruption of services be detrimental to the student's continued progress? Emerging skills and breakthrough opportunities. The IEP team determines whether any IEP goals and objectives targeting critical life skills are at a breakthrough point. The IEP team determines whether the interruption of instruction on the critical life skills caused by the school break would significantly jeopardize the student's receipt of educational benefit from their educational program during the regular school year without ESY services. Use data from data sheets, formative assessments, and performance checklists that document recent increase in the demonstration of critical life skills. It is important to consider if the breakthrough skill can only be addressed in the school environment and requires direct instruction, or if it is a skill the student will be able to continue to work on during the break. Consider the following questions. Does data indicate there are any IEP goals that target critical life skills at a breakthrough point? Would an interruption in services and instruction due to a school break on those skills significantly jeopardize gains made on their educational program during the regular school year? Do these critical life skills require direct instruction in order to continue to develop? Has the student reached a critical point of instruction or behavior management where a break in programming would have serious detrimental effects? Interfering behaviors. The IEP team determines whether, without ESY services, any interfering behaviors such as aggressive or self-injurious behaviors targeted by IEP goals have prevented the student from receiving benefit from their educational program during the school year. Use progress monitoring data sheets, charts, and notes from behavior intervention plan goals. Also consider data from data sheets and performance checklists documenting insufficient progress on IEP behavior goals. When considering interfering behaviors, if a student has difficulty with transitions and a new environment and requires weeks to adjust, the team should take this into consideration. There are several questions to consider when determining interfering behaviors. Does the student have difficulty with transition, new environments, and requires weeks to adjust? have any interfering behavior or behaviors, ritualistic, aggressive, or self-injurious, targeted by the IEP goals or documented in a BIP, prevented the student from receiving benefit from their educational program during the current school year? Will the interruption of programming that addresses the interfering behaviors be likely to significantly jeopardize the student's receipt of benefit from their educational programming during the next school year? Does student behavior remain at baseline or returns quickly to baseline after long weekends or breaks? Nature and severity of the disability. The IEP team determines whether without ESY services, the nature and severity of the student's disability are likely to significantly jeopardize the student's receipt of benefit from their educational program during the regular school year. Relevant data includes observations, data sheets, and performance checklist. Also consider documented degenerative or significant medical conditions, including traumatic brain injury. Consider the following as it relates to nature and severity of the disability. Without ESY services, the nature and/or severity of the student's disability are likely to significantly jeopardize the student's receipt of benefit from their educational program during the regular school year. Is there a degenerative or significant medical condition, including traumatic brain injury, that might cause an impact on the student's receipt of FAPE? Special circumstances or other factors. The IEP team determines without ESY services, there are special circumstances that will significantly jeopardize the student's receipt of benefit from their educational program during the regular school year. Questions to consider when looking at special circumstances or other factors might include: without ESY services, are there any special circumstances that will significantly jeopardize a student's receipt of benefit from their educational program during the regular school year? Due to unique medical or treatment circumstances, the student may have been unavailable for instruction. Remember, ESY services are uniquely designed to provide FAPE to students with disabilities. It is necessary to keep in mind BDOE states these services are not based on the category of the student's disability, but must be based on the student's unique educational needs. Mandated 12-month services for all students with disabilities. A child care service. Continuation of the total IEP provided to the student with a disability during the regular school year. A service to be provided to maximize each student's potential. An automatic program provision from year to year. Summer school, compensatory services, or enrichment programs. Required to be provided all day, every day, or each day. Granted solely on the basis of a student's failure to achieve one or more of the IEP goals or objectives or benchmarks, if required. We went over a lot of information in this training. Remember the critical question: will the benefits a student with a disability gains during the regular school year be significantly jeopardized if the student does not receive ESY? If the answer is yes, then the IEP team will identify the specific goals or objective or benchmark, if required, from the current IEP, since all goals may not be affected. Determine the type, amount, and duration of the special education and/or related services required based upon the goals identified. The amount, type, and duration may differ for each identified service if more than one service is required. Do not forget to address any needed related services, including transportation. Decisions regarding services must be based upon the student's need and not on existing programs. Determine the LRE in which the specific goal will be addressed. Determine participation with peers without disabilities, and determine the person responsible for providing services, i.e., special education teachers, speech language pathologists, physical therapists, etc. ESY services are provided to students grade pre-K through 12 whose Individualized Education Program, IEP team, decided that the benefits the student gained during the regular school year will be significantly jeopardized if the student does not receive ESY services. All ESY services and transportation are provided free of charge as part of the student's access to a free and appropriate public education, FAPE. Parents should contact their child's case manager if they would like to discuss the consideration of ESY services. An ESY FAQ section is available on the public webpage. Once a parent guardian provides written consent to the ESY proposal, the student will be registered for ESY services by school staff. Teachers complete the registration process. Parents do not do anything at this time. Parents, guardians of students listed in the ESY registration system who are receiving direct class-based services at an ESY site in July will receive email notification from the ESY program indicating the status of the staffing for their child's ESY site. Students who are entered in the registration system after the first or second notification date will be added to the subsequent notification dates. Email notification dates include May 23rd, June 6th, June 13th, and June 21st. Thank you for viewing the presentation Factors to Consider when Determining Extended School Year ESY. Additional information regarding ESY services may also be found on the Virginia Department of Education's webpage, Special Education for Families.